You're listening to
and such a short amount of time to do it in.
a Mamamia podcast.
Hi there and welcome to Cancelled, a podcast from Mamamia about who's in, who's out and who cares. I'm Clare Stephens. I'm a writer and an editor. I'm Jessie Stephens. I'm also some of those things. Claire's twin, which I think we've mentioned, and Cancelled is a podcast where Claire goes through story of a cancelled person or thing or show. And there's some questions, concerns, and of course we get to our charges and sentencing. We should probably just add in a note. This is a silly podcast for people that want a bit of a laugh. Silly. Haha. Ha ha ha. Good energy you're bringing there. And before we get into it, what we would love is if you could take a picture of yourself listening, where you're listening, bit of a vibe for where you're at, and tag us. We are at @twins_thoughts on Instagram. We want to see, we get very excited about our community. Please share. Claire, who are we covering today? We're talking about The Biggest Loser. Cue Lift by Shannon Knoll. You gotta live. You gotta live. Sometimes that's how it is. You gotta lift. You gotta lift. Yeah, great. Yeah. But like it's a metaphor because it's also like lifting weights, but lifting yourself. And your spirit. Yeah. Before we start, a content note. This episode deals with discussions of disordered eating and fat shaming, and it might not be for everyone. We're not going to state any specific weights or calorie intake information because it's just not the most important part of the discussion, and it's also not helpful to women struggling with body image. For help and support for eating disorders, contact the Butterfly Foundation's National Support Line, an online service on 1-800-ED-HOPE. That's 1-800-33-4673. I've just got to pause for a giggle because why wasn't that in the intro of the show for 10 years? Oh, yes. That really? Yes. Talk about a show that needed a content warning. Yeah. And we've got content warnings on, sometimes we get one on Married at First Sight. Yeah. Yeah. You got content warnings on like Netflix shows now. We didn't get a heads up. No. This will ruin your relationship with food indefinitely. Yeah. And it will humiliate people based on their body size. Yeah. This is good for no one. We never ever got that. No. We should probably get into that before we kind of lay that premise down. Jessie, The Biggest Loser Australia debuted in 2006 and there was a season almost every year until 2017. That's just recent. It's a lot. But I do want to say the 2017 season was the one where they tried to go healthy and not about like a weight loss competition. Nobody watched. No, that's the thing. No one watches how to get your blood pressure down. No. And this is an issue with culture. Broadly. I think this is going to be a theme. Broadly, culture needs to take a long, hard look at oneself in the mirror. And what we're watching. Yeah. So the hosts included Fiona Faulkner, Hayley Lewis and AJ Rochester. In the first Australian season, the trainers were actually Gillian Michaels and Bob Harper from The American Show. That would have been big bucks. I don't know how they had this kind of money. Then Michelle Bridges and Shannon Ponton joined, followed by Steve Commando Willis and Tiffany Hall. The seasons were focused on individuals, then couples, then families, then singles, and so forth. I remember this line in the family season, and for some reason it's never left me. It was Michelle Bridges, and she said, "The whole family is fat. Mum and dad are fat, the kids are fat, the dog is fat." And I was like, the dog? Leave the dog isn't on the show. It didn't apply. It didn't apply. And here we are fat shaming a dog. Like, leave the freaking dog alone. I mean, put the humans to one side. We've come to accept that as part and parcel of this show. But the dog? Let's leave it. I remember becoming immediately self-conscious because our dog was very overweight. Yeah. And I remember thinking, is she attacking our family? Is that the next season? Is that the next season? Biggest Loser Pets edition. I reckon that's where they were headed. Me too. And then they got cut off. Yeah, they did. On average, winners of The Biggest Loser tended to lose between 30 and 50% of their body weight in what was portrayed to be a period of 3 to 4 months, but in reality, it was a lot longer. The Biggest Loser was actually cancelled due to low ratings, but also appalling ethics and hopefully the changing sense of what we as humans find acceptable on television. No, what happens is that first it's cancelled for the low ratings and then the ethics follow.
Yeah.
Is it often what we do is it gets cancelled because it's like it's not making us any money and the ethics are dubious. No, the ethics were always dubious, but they were making you money for a long time.
I guess,
sir.
I guess they're not cancelling Married at First Sight and a man stuck a woman's toothbrush in the toilet bowl and got poop on it and then she brushed her teeth. They didn't cancel it.
There are upcoming seasons
of
that. May I just say before we get into this is how we got our start, Claire. In the media.
It is how we got our start in the media.
Because we used to write Biggest Loser recaps for a website called New Matilda. And we had a little bit of fun with it because we knew even back then that this was horrifically degrading.
Potentially the most problematic show on television. And I was doing my master's in obesity and eating disorders at the time. So I was doing a whole lot of research about this and I said,
and then you'd come home at 7:30 and be like,
I was like,
for the best.
This is what we're trying to fight in my research. This is the problem. So I thought there was just a really nice little recap element there. So we did recap it.
I don't want to say we're experts because expertise has never stopped us.
No.
It's never stopped us from going, let's do Hilaria, let's do Elizabeth.
No. But if anybody is the experts on The Biggest Loser Australia, specifically seasons 2 to 8, that's us.
It's us.
So we're going to talk about why and how and who the fuck let this happen. But first, here's my structure because I always need my little structure. 1, I'm going to give you a mini recap of an episode of a season.
Let's get a feel.
Because I think you may have lost the feeling.
In court, you have to tender the vibe. Here's the vibe of what was happening.
Exactly. Point B, what really happened behind the scenes. Point I, where are past contestants now? Point F, what it said culturally.
Bad things.
Jessie, what do you remember about The Biggest Loser? Before we get into the recap, what are you're thinking of The Biggest Loser, tell me the images. Tell me the
I've got 3.
Okay,
I've
go.
got 3. All right, number 1. Woman standing in front of dirty mirror.
Yep.
Underwear. Beige.
Yep.
Underwear. Dark
Sad.
lighting.
Yep.
Sad, crying maybe. Messy room, crying.
Yep.
About not being able to fall in love or something unrelated to her body, but looking at herself, having realisation, things need to change, being used as before shot.
Yes.
That's number 1. Number 2, do you remember Margie?
Yeah, we're going to talk about
Margie was my favourite. Margie Cummins, the auntie of Nick Cummins of The Bachelor fame. Honestly, it's just a small world. Margie once took a can of Diet Coke. She stole it.
This is all I could think about when I was prepping.
She stole it from the pantry and she got yelled at. And I remember yelling back at the television, it's got no calories. And I was just, let her have.
If you're going to create this artificial world where all they care about is calories, let her have unlimited Diet Coke.
Let the woman have a Diet Coke, a D Coke. Come on, it's the afternoon.
We were probably on our 7th Diet Coke of the day. Watching it.
The 3rd is a season, I don't know if they did this towards the end, probably because of viewer complaints, but name on T-shirt with weight. Andre, weight. Do you remember this? So it would be like Claire, and then it would just have the kilograms you weighed as
really
though
screwed up.
both things were of equal importance.
This is my name, this is my weight.
It was like the Scarlet Letter. Like we're
Jesus
branding
Christ.
you with this.
I actually had forgotten that.
Yeah, no.
All right. So you've got some vivid images. I'm going to do a mini recap of a single episode of The Biggest Loser to paint a picture because it's been a little while. People might not have ever watched it, or you watched an episode and you've forgotten. I'll set the scene. It's season 3, episode 1. We begin with double the amount of people they can actually fit in the competition. So there's 30 people, only 15 can make it in. Michelle and Shannon arrive, and Michelle's pissed off straight away because she's like, why are they happy and excited? They have no idea what they're in for. They're on TV.
I'm excited too.
I'm excited. I love reality TV.
But the key philosophy is being sown here, which is one cannot be fat and happy.
Well, Michelle Bridges has unequivocally stated that in the years since. That she's like, no one has ever been obese and happy at the same time. And several people were like,
I am.
their hands up.
But then the thing is, if someone sat with me in a room and tried to convince me I was sad for 15 minutes,
I'd be like, maybe I am.
Maybe
really
I am.
sad.
And that's what we saw was these people going, I'm actually quite happy. I'm a really good person. I've got a lovely family. I enjoy my job. And they were like, you're sad. And they were like, maybe I am.
Maybe I am broken. So Michelle's pissed off that they're happy. Then there's this silver platter, this like lid thing, and they really go with the food motifs to really tease these people. So they get this silver platter and they lift it up, and there's a card that says only 15 people can make it in, and it's going to be decided by this grueling, horrific workout. And the idea is that the ones who don't make it in just have to go home, I guess, and like lose weight on their own.
And be sad alone.
The trainers described this training session as the most defining moment of these people's lives.
Okay.
Do you think in hindsight that it was?
No. But they do this with the voice.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't tell you the name of a winner
I can't tell you the name of anyone on The Voice
who's
this
ever
season.
been on it. And they're like, this will change your life. You could get a contract. And I'm like, no, what contract?
It's just hyperbole. Michelle says her training philosophy is to get real, and you got to leave all your excuses at the gate. She points to the gate. Shannon tells them not to let their family and friends down, which is an ongoing thing, that your weight loss, it's not about you. It's about everyone around you. You can clearly notice that there's a weird rattlesnake noise every time there's drama. Do you remember this sound?
Just like danger, danger,
Danger,
danger,
danger,
danger.
I remember us always looking out for the rattlesnake sound. For some reason, it's cold and wet, and it doesn't make sense that they do this workout outdoors. They're covered in mud within 2 minutes. You don't have to get physically dirty in order to exercise.
It's a humiliation. I remember when we were recapping, we found an episode of a guy and it was always in mud and rolling around in it. It was so humiliating and degrading. And I remember we screenshotted it at one point and we went, he hasn't started his workout. And he was covered in mud. And it was like before they got the cameras out, they just sprayed him with a mud hose to be like, this is degrading.
It makes me so mad. Like, these people are just... So at first they're just running on the spot, and then it's like, get on your guts, 2 push-ups, go. And it's like, I think they are totally within their rights to say, all right, I actually am happy to lose weight. I don't want to get in the mud. I want to be clean. I don't like mud.
And why do you get to be clean?
Why do you get to be clean? You look fucking fine.
Michelle
you have
Bridges,
makeup on.
you've got eyeshadow. You've got a cut crease.
Yeah.
She's got eyeshadow on. And I've got to be in the mud.
Muddy. So it's unnecessary. I get so mad watching this because this style of personal training gets me so furious. Oh, get down and do a push-up. I cannot do a push-up. So what are you going to do now? I can't do a push-up or a pull-up. I can't do the row up. There are many things I physically cannot do.
It was just, this is why we don't exercise.
And it's unnecessary because exercise can be something you enjoy, which is just another conversation for another day. Shannon says...
Today, there was going to be blood, sweat, tears and vomit. And we were going to find a way to get all of them.
Why? You don't have to vomit. I think if you went to a doctor and said, I want to lose weight, I want to, be healthier, whatever... I don't think a doctor would say vomit is necessary.
Weep. I want you to weep on the treadmill.
Bleed. Why?
From where?
From where and for why? I just also, can you imagine doing this workout and then just not getting chosen for the show? I can't.
Yeah, it's like you're not good enough, but we're not helping you.
Ultimately, they do 2 hours of training. Totally unnecessary. And they're completely...
You can't go from 0 to 2 hours.
No, it's a lot. And one woman says at one point... She's really in the moment and she looks at the camera and says,
I am going to lose all of my weight.
I hope not.
Sweetie, don't.
You can't be losing all your weight. It's very dangerous. Then they make a set of twins decide between themselves who's going to go into the Biggest Loser house and who isn't. And I thought that was funny because I'd just be like, lol, you go.
We'd have one of those embarrassing twin fights that twins have in public where it's like, no, seriously, you do it.
I don't want to do it.
You said I did it last time.
You did it last time.
You do it. I think I'd end up doing it.
Yeah, probably. I'd be like, meh. Michelle ends up saying, all of you are coming to the finale a whole lot slimmer. She doesn't say fitter. She doesn't say healthier. They're coming back slimmer. Then all of the losers are walking down the road.
Are they referred to as losers?
Well, I assume so. Like, it's called The Biggest Loser, Jesus. But all the people who didn't get into the house, right, are walking down this country outback road. And it's confusing because could they not have a vehicle? Could they not get a car to get home?
They wasted all the money on the mud. On the mud pit.
So these people are walking down a road and then all of a sudden this military van comes out of nowhere and Mr. Commando gets out and starts yelling at them being like, it ain't over yet. And it's like they were just told they were going home.
And they did a 2-hour workout. Like,
It's over.
Yes. She definitely twisted her ankle. Like, let her go.
Let her go. So anyway, it turns out they're the black team. They get flown to LA. It's a lot. Then just a quick note on the weigh-ins. Men are topless, women are in sports bras. These are just some of the questions that AJ asks the contestants, who was the host at the time. Are you worried about dying before your children grow up?
I wasn't, but I am now.
Other than yourself, who have you let down? And do you think your weight is robbing you of your youth?
You know what you call that in a court of law? It's a leading question.
Leading question. Leading bloody question. It's bloody horrible. One guy calls his weight un-Australian, which I just found so bizarre because I was like, did a producer get in your ear and tell you to say that? Because I've never thought, your weight can't be un-Australian, mate. That's just very bizarre. Anyway, that is just a little bit of a picture of what a standard episode of The Biggest Loser looked like. I just wanted to say it does feel like it was the peak of reality TV because it seemed like there was so much money. They literally got these people in a private jet and flew them to LA to train with Bob and Gillian.
I agree it was a peak of reality TV, but it's like, why didn't you just renew Idol?
Yeah, I would
Like, just have 3 seasons of Australian Idol a year.
super unproblematic.
We don't need The Biggest Loser. We don't need the shame. It's very upsetting. Watching them on the scale apologise for existing to a stranger named Michelle, a stranger
Named AJ,
a stranger named Commando who appears to be from the military, and also Australia more broadly, and their children.
is horrific. So that is a bit of a recap. Point B. What was really happening? So this is kind of where we get into like why this, seriously, we need to talk about cancellation. I remember watching a contestant called Michelle in 2012 struggle.
White team.
I hate how closely we watched it.
She was a lovely young
She was
girl.
lovely.
Yeah.
She was struggling with binge eating in the house. And when she went back home for her mum's birthday during the show, she came back. She had been binging and she put on some weight when she got back, and it was absolutely horrible. And I remember at that time, I was a teenager watching that, and I was super disturbed. I was like, wait, this is somebody who has an eating disorder, and there is nobody here having that conversation. And I found it really, really distressing.
And you don't say that, like, depriving someone of their basic nutritional needs means that they're going to get really hungry and then eat.
They are.
That's going to be somewhat of a cycle.
It's almost a cycle that psychologists have identified and treated for a really long time. Yeah, bizarre. Here's what we know about what was actually going on the show. So apart from watching the mud workouts, this is what was actually happening. Tracy Moores was on the first season, and in 2019 she spoke to the feed in an investigation into reality TV. She talked about being in one of the first episodes and they were all blindfolded. Then a curtain was taken down and there was all this food. They basically made us out to look like a bunch of pigs, she said. I was quite distraught about the whole thing. We were traumatised to the point where I was crying. This is a really bizarre thing about the show. It was all about weight loss and, like, not eating. But then there was temptation where
you'd get an advantage?
Get a weight advantage. So it's like, yeah, but if you eat 20 chocolates, then you get 3 kilos in the it's like, that's not how life works. It's not. It's just how your stupid game works. You created an arbitrary game, but it's people's health. It's really, really uncomfortable. She then talked about a challenge where they were on the tarmac and they had to pull a plane, and it was 40
Again,
degrees.
they're being treated as cattle.
They are being treated as cattle.
They are literally put in mud, and then often they were like horses drawing a cart.
Yes. It was horrific. And in what world is it functional? People talk about functional exercise. Functional to pull a plane down the tarmac. You're never going to have to do that.
You're not going to have to use those muscles often.
You go to the doctor for a health checkup and they say, just come out the back. I've got a plane and I just need to see how far you can pull it. What?
It's so true.
It's just
or in
not
day-to-day
necessary.
life when you've got to do it, you don't want to get injured, so you want to have agile muscles for plane pulling.
Exactly. So they're on the tarmac pulling this thing. It's 40 degrees and they were only given hot water.
Why?
And then all the crew had umbrellas and bottles of water with ice. And this contestant, Tracy, went up to them and said, can we get some cold water? And they said, no, that's the water for you, the hot water.
It's almost like the crew on the show of The Biggest Loser hated fat people.
Yeah, almost.
Almost. You'd never guess it from the title. Or the fact that they wore their weight on their chest.
But
it's almost like subtly they didn't respect them.
Tracy also said contestants would be on a treadmill for hours on end, sometimes 3 hours, and she did share the calorie number they were consuming, which we're not going to share, but it was seriously, seriously disturbing.
I remember this being like, not all human bodies are designed to do the same exercise.
No.
Like some people aren't designed to run on a treadmill. If I go for a run, my ankles swell.
Yeah.
That's okay, Jessie.
You can do another form of
Do
exercise.
another exercise.
Walk.
Do a walk. Do some yoga. Do a little dance. You don't have to run. It's bad for your ankles.
It is.
And they would always end up with like a broken knee.
They would. And then they'd wonder, do you remember the challenges? Someone was always sitting out because they were injured.
Do you remember every challenge someone had a moon boot? There was always someone with a moon boot who was like, I'll still hike. And I was like, don't. You need to rest.
You're going to hurt it more. Anyway, Tracy also said the contestants had enemas, they shaved all the hair off their body, they didn't eat, and she talked about being hospitalised for dehydration. Basically, it's almost like when you turn weight loss into a competition, it leads to disordered eating and exercise behaviours.
And
Wild.
like, people might go too far.
People might go too far to win $200,000.
Which was, like, it's a lot now, but it was more then.
Yeah, it was. A former host, AJ, has said this about the show. She has talked about a contestant who would smuggle tea tree oil in, and when she asked about it, apparently they drunk it to make them throw up. And she also said that there was a contestant who was doing a whole lot of cocaine and she raised it and the producers were like, no, this is about somebody losing weight. This isn't about us worrying about that. And she said that the final weigh-in was held a few days before filming in order for the contestants to be healthy enough to stand in front of a camera and not look half dead.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Magic of television, hey?
Because some people would win by 200 grams. Like,
Yeah.
you're talking relatively small amount.
It was, like, and then to think when you turn it into a competition, of course they're going to do all these weird things.
That's why it's not ideal.
It's not ideal. On the injuries, so in terms of what this show was actually like behind the scenes, I did a bunch of research on all the Australian seasons, and it's quite hard to find really specific facts because it wasn't necessarily the internet age, like the golden era of internet when this was on. But from quickly me having a Google, these are just some of the injuries, top-line injuries. So I want you to just listen and react.
Okay.
An ambulance takes Gerard away.
Did he come back?
I don't know. Alex injures his ankle while people are questioning his work ethic.
Okay. Sometimes when you say you can't do it, you can't because you
can't
broke your
do it.
ankle.
Sean has a heel injury, which later flares up again. Monica is severely injured in a basketball session. Amanda has a fall and therefore has a small tissue injury. Charlene injures her back during a sailing challenge. Sailing? I don't want to go sailing. No sailing. That's not even... How is that even good exercise?
I'm pretty sure you just stand there, pull some ropes.
Lydia has a severe knee injury and is sent home. And then this was actually from one of our recaps. In 2015, Johnny severely injured his Achilles. Then shockingly, he injured his other Achilles, probably because he was training with an injured Achilles. In that same season, nay, the same episode, Moses is taken to hospital with an inflamed heart.
Again, did he return? Why can't I remember?
I don't know, but that's freaking terrifying. And these are not normal things that happen to people who start exercising in a normal, moderate way. It's freaking disturbing. Moving on to part I. Past contestants. So this is what past contestants have said about their experiences on The Biggest Loser. Emma Duncan won the show in 2011. When she saw applications were open for The Biggest Loser families, she encouraged her siblings to enter with her. And this I find really interesting. She put on about 30% of her body weight before filming started. She says, I knew we were going to get on, so I just let loose a little bit and ate too much. I was like, right, I need half my body weight to lose if I'm going to win this show. That makes so much sense. As if you wouldn't be trying to stack on the weight before you enter so that it's easier to lose more.
That is just going to mess you up for life.
That is not good. She did win. And she says she hated being the weight she was when she won. She says, I felt too thin, looked too sick. Being 6 feet tall, I just didn't like it. She talks about her skin being loose, and within a matter of weeks of normal, everyday living and eating and drinking fluids, she had put on 20% of her body weight.
And then they'd always do, like, some magazine would be like, a year on, where are they now? And it was like, they put on weight. And I was like, that's because they're not being whipped by Michelle Bridges anymore or chased by Commando being told that they're going to die soon.
And they have jobs. And
yeah, they
things
can't.
to do.
I remember they would do like 6 hours of exercise a day with no focus on what they ate. I think because they didn't eat.
I know.
And so it was like, yeah, they went to work. They had half a slice of a birthday cake and their stomach freaked.
Yeah. Next contestant, who we touched on earlier, Margie.
My favourite.
So she won in 2012. She lost almost half her body weight to win the Biggest Loser singles. Everybody loved her and she got quite a big social media following. But along with that fame came a whole lot of trolling and stalking that affected her so badly that she barely left the house for years. She says she stayed indoors and became a bit of a hermit and she couldn't handle it, and she gained back half of what she'd lost. She talks about having to stay indoors. She couldn't go into shopping centres because she'd have anxiety attacks. And if you look at her Instagram now, she's currently doing a weight loss challenge. And I think it just goes to show that this is not the quick fix that the show made it out to be, that you go on and do 4 months of intense work and then you have this new body and then you go and live your life. These people battle with this for the rest of their lives.
Look, if the diet industry worked, it wouldn't be a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's because people go back. The reason that the biggest ones are worth so much money is because you go back and back and back and back because they don't work.
Mm-hmm. Then we have Michelle Lozanovsky. She was a contestant in 2008. She lost 25% of her body weight, but she says she had not learnt to deal with her binge eating. She actually says that there was no focus on eating and no one had taught her how to control her eating while she was on The Biggest Loser. She says 8 months after leaving, she weighed more than she did when she went into the show. And she talked 3 years later to a magazine and talked about having body lift surgery and how she had really struggled in the years since. I'm not touching on overseas versions of The Biggest Loser in this because I think there's enough in Biggest Loser Australia, but I do want to just include one quote from a US Biggest Loser winner, Kai Hibbard, who says, "The whole fucking show is a fat-shaming disaster and I'm embarrassed to have participated in."
Well said.
There
are these viral videos going around of Gillian being like, I hope you die on the treadmill. At least if you die on the treadmill, you'll die hard. Like the things that woman said to people, she is so fat phobic.
Oh, God. She made a comment about Lizzo.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, we do not do such a thing.
Not to Lizzo.
Oh, God, it made me so mad. Now for point F, what it said culturally. So I've got a few little points here. One is about health. On the show, they drew a whole lot of direct comparisons between life expectancy and health conditions and these people's weight. Those things are not based on fact. And they're not based on fact because Shannon Ponton, Michelle Bridges, Commando, and Tiffany Hall are not medical doctors or researchers or cardiovascular surgeons.
Did you see the message I sent you just before we got in the studio?
Oh, yeah, I'm upset about it.
I discovered who the medical doctor was for The Biggest Loser.
Jessie, who was it?
It was Norman Swan. Norman Swan was the medical doctor.
And as soon as you sent it, I remembered.
I remembered his accent. Me too. And he was the medical doctor.
Norman Swan.
Norman.
He has been sneaking in a few things into Corona Cast where it's like, what can I do about the pandemic? And he's like, keep your weight down. And I'm like,
you know what? If a doctor wants to say that, I respect you, Norman Swan, and I'm not going to cancel him for what he did all those years ago. And he said that the sort of project of addressing obesity in Australia had failed, and to think that Norman Swan thought this was the best solution. He saw plus-size people rolling down a hill covered in mud, and he went,
yep, that's it.
This is it.
That's it. It's really quite disturbing. So people like Shannon would say during the show, there's a quote from him where he says, people are starting with diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. These factors can kill you. Being fit and healthy can eliminate all these factors. Jessie, is that a true fact?
No, it can't. But Shannon, why didn't you ever check any of those things then? Like, they weren't doing blood tests.
They did at the very beginning.
Blood test?
And then, well, they did a medical, right? And then they did this thing where they sat. So obviously somebody's medical information is the most private thing about them. And they get the whole group together and they say, you got heart disease. You, pre-diabetic. You can't get your heart rate above 100. It was so screwed up.
You know how when that Medicare thing came out about like my health or whatever came out and everyone was like, that's really private. I love how on The Biggest Loser we're like, give us the details. Give us the details. I want to see how sick they are. Excuse you. On your lounge judging another person.
No, it's appalling. And it's just, I just want it on the record that you can have heart disease without being overweight.
I love the image of Shannon ushering 3 siblings up a hill while they're covered in mud and crying and him thinking, yeah, it's just me saving lives. Like he thought he was saving lives.
And that's why they were so passionate.
Because they did. Like it was him in a car herding people, being like trying to get them to run, like ropes, all that kind of stuff, yelling at them. And he thought he was saving lives.
He really did. Now, one thing I do want on the record on this episode as well is a fact that was very widely ignored in The Biggest Loser. You actually can't die of being fat. Nobody has ever died and they say cause of death, overweight. It doesn't happen. But that is what the show would have had you believe. And they pulled out statistics and they said things that you look back on now and if with any amount of rigor, you go, that's a lie. Oh, misunderstanding. Fundamental misunderstanding of research. So
of how health
disturbing.
works. Like they were just personal trainers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I've seen a personal trainer. They say some problematic shit.
I know.
They say stuff really flippantly that you're like, I love personal trainers. They know how to get you to exercise, but they do not know everything.
They do not. Then there was what the show said culturally about dieting and weight loss. So firstly, competitive dieting is a well-researched risk factor for dangerous weight loss behaviours, and surely the risk is even greater when there's a $200,000 prize at stake.
Really? Because I think that when you go to the doctor and they say we think you should lose weight, they say you should compete with 3 friends.
Here's some money.
Here's some money. I'm going to go like this, like you're a dog.
Yes.
I'm like, this is a treat. Yep. Come on. It's a treat. We're going to get you to cry, to vomit, pull an Achilles.
Yeah.
That's the deal. You guys compete. That's how health works.
Yep. That's not what they say. Then you've got the fact that people with a history of obesity are actually predisposed to develop eating disorders. And you've got a complete recipe for a lifelong battle with your body. So that's what the show set people up for.
Tick
there. Another thing that I also want on the record, I mentioned earlier that I was doing my master's when me and you were recapping The Biggest Loser. I remember going to a conference and a bariatric surgeon standing there and saying, we do not know how people can lose weight and keep it off. We do not know. There is no answer. There is no solution that we can agree on in the medical community.
Shannon had it though.
Shannon had it.
Did they call Shannon?
They call Shannon, relatedly, Michelle. But or Commando.
Commando, because he thinks that if you just do a bit of a military course on the ground and wear some khaki pants, then
you got it.
Can solve it.
The trainers were always, in the little B-roll footage introducing them, they were always doing one-armed push-ups.
Oh, that's annoying.
Then there's what the show said culturally about people who are plus size. It implied that they are lazy, they are greedy, they have no self-control, they are unhappy. And that is so horrible. I remember in one of the last seasons there was a contestant who got on the scale and he had this amazing quote where he was like, I'm not going to get up here and say I'm unhappy because I'm not. I'm really happy. And Michelle Bridges was just, her eye was twitching. She was like, so you're miserable? This cannot be true.
So you're miserable and so it's because of your weight.
And he was like, I'm a happy guy. And she was like, no.
But how happy was Michelle?
I don't know.
And Commando seemed angry.
He did seem angry. Jessie, it is time for charges and sentences.
Okay, I have 2 charges.
Okay, I want to hear your first.
My charge. thinking they were saving lives when they were actually just being mean. Not very nice. It's a charge we've had before.
Not being nice.
It's a legal charge. You're not being kind. You're being cruel.
Yeah.
So, cruelty generally. So what is my sentence?
Okay.
It's a little bit complicated. Okay?
Oh, no.
You know how on The Biggest Loser there were several very nice contestants?
Oh.
Such as Margie, such as Pablo, such as Mel.
The Joffrey family.
Lovely. Honestly, I don't think I ever disliked a contestant. They were lovely people. So, because you know how it was kind of like a camp in Terry Hills?
It wasn't kind of like a camp in Terry Hills. It was a camp in Terry Hills.
Well, I think they should run a camp
Sorry, just on that. Apparently they had to move from one filming location because the neighbours complained that it was too loud and there was like screaming. And I was like, it was freaking Michelle.
Or just the cries of sad people being like, get me out of this prison.
Anyway, continue.
Okay, so Camp in Terry Hills. I'd like to rebrand it and call it The Biggest Nice Person. Okay, hear me out. So, Margie and Pablo run it. And it's a camp that teaches you to be fucking nice. Okay? So, rules. You can't yell at someone for drinking a Diet Coke. In fact, you can have as many as you like. Don't ask people if they think they'd find love if they lost weight. Because it's rude.
It is rude
and leading.
Yes.
And Commando and Michelle will get there to this camp because I'll be sent there in a truck. And they'll think they have to roll in the mud. And they'll go to the mud and they'll be like, oh, I guess I'll get in the mud. No.
You don't have
We're going to a bar and having a drink.
Yeah.
And we're treating each other like humans.
There's pizza.
And there's pizza. And we're going to develop a human connection.
Yeah.
And have mutual respect.
That's what life is about.
Until day 3.
Oh, no.
Yes, I told you it's complicated. On day 3, I'd like them to be followed around by 3 people.
Uh-huh.
1 in military attire and ugly sunglasses.
Uh-huh.
And be told they're going to die. And see how it feels. To be told you're going to die.
Because it's actually a true fact.
It's true fact for everyone.
Yeah.
Constantly by strangers. They're just going to follow you.
And maybe if they just listed the reasons, it's like you could get cancer.
Yeah.
You could get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Very anxiety provoking.
Exactly. I'm worried about your blood pressure. And it's like, you don't know my blood pressure.
No,
but they're worried about it. And you're going to die. It might be soon, might be later, and you're going to leave your kids behind.
Yeah.
It's that kind of behaviour only for one day.
Okay.
And then after that,
Back to nice camp?
back to nice camp, trainer's forgiven.
All right.
Trainer's forgiven because it wasn't their fault, that it was the culture.
Okay.
So that's why they get one bad day. And in fact, add into that all the people that wouldn't give them cold water on the tarmac.
Yeah. The producers.
The producers,
Crew,
they can
yeah.
also be followed around. So that's my first one. What's your...
Well, I guess mine is sort of one of mine similar. My first charge is completely misrepresenting everything. My sentence is you get every past contestant back and A, apologise,
Okay.
and B, check in on how they're doing.
In what way?
Wait.
On a scale?
No,
Oh,
no. How you doing? How's your life? How's your family?
How's your cash? How's your dog?
How are your interests? That's nice. Yeah. Okay. What's your second
All
charge?
right. Second charge. Exercise people being too much. It's not their fault because they're in a good mood. And they're in a good mood because they've done so much exercise. They're running on the spot all the time while they're waiting for the light to change. And that is annoying, right? They're always stretching or thinking about stretching. And we can tell.
Yeah.
What's the sentence? Michelle Bridges. Take your runners off.
Does she have to wear like really uncomfortable shoes?
Just like sandals.
Okay.
Okay. Take the Lorna Jane off.
I wonder if her feet have evolved in a way where they only sit in runners.
And when they're out, it's like,
Yeah.
like because they've never seen light.
No, they're like bright white.
Yeah, they're bright
Yeah.
white. And I want exercise people, and this isn't just the trainers, it's more broadly. Because we've talked privately about this, exercise people are a bit much. I'm sentencing exercise people to chill by 20% from now on until forever.
Okay. Yeah, chill.
Stop yelling.
Chill with the energy, chill with the sharing what you're eating.
With the joy, with the endorphins, we fucking get it. You exercise.
With the morning routines on TikTok.
Oh, chill. Chill.
Yep. Okay, 20% chill. I agree. My final charge, very similar to yours. It's bad personal training.
Okay.
It's bad personal training.
That really was the issue, wasn't it?
It was. My sentence is the following. A show called The Bestest Trainer.
Okay.
Where normal non-athletes train the trainers on how to be good trainers. They give them honest feedback about what's working and what's not.
So it's like, that made me feel bad.
Yeah, so I had a personal trainer this one day. I had it for one session. And he made a lot of comments about my body. He made a lot of comments about what I could and couldn't do. And I would just like to say, pause, this show is about me making you the bestest trainer, and I have some feedback. And that feedback is not going to come back now.
I love it when they make you feel out of form and you're like, oh, I don't know what I want. And then they look at you, they're like, are you looking to tone up? No.
That wasn't on my form.
That wasn't on my form. I thought I was
like,
looking
you
pretty
want
good.
You want that really toned waist. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I do, sir.
I'm not coming back.
I never came back. So I think
For
some
5
trainers-
years, you and I didn't walk a certain route home because it passed the gym and a very aggressive personal trainer who would ask us why we hadn't been back. We haven't been back because you made me feel bad about myself.
And then I remember walking past one time and he was at the lights just waiting and then he was like, hey, how you going? You put on weight. That is why I don't walk past him, mister. That is why I'm never going back.
Not all personal trainers, but some.
But some. So that's why we need the bestest trainer.
Oh,
And can you imagine the bestest trainer? Oh, they'd be a great trainer.
They'd be great.
They're gentle and calm and they find the exercise that you like and they don't make it
Find
scary.
what feels good.
Find what feels good.
Margie would give some great feedback.
Yeah.
As would we.
Yeah. So I think the bestest trainer is where we got to go. So that's all we've got time for on
Thank
today's
you
episode.
for joining us for The Biggest Loser, which has officially been cancelled.
Yeah.
That didn't need to be in our charges because it didn't get enough viewers to continue.
No, Finn now.
Okay. Thank you so much. Please leave us a review. Give us a 5-star rating.
People have a lot of feelings in the review. So if you would
Yeah.
leave us a nice review,
I
we would
just-
appreciate it.
Commando
forever.
Steve 101. I thought this was silly.
Yeah.
Commando, go away. If you are looking for something to listen to next, then may we suggest The Quickie. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the 24/7 news cycle, Mamamia's podcast, The Quickie, will bring you up to speed daily, covering the news headlines in 5 minutes, plus a deep dive to find out everything you need to know in one go.
Is it on us to kind of have everyone prove that they're vaccinated or have people know who and who isn't vaccinated before they attend, say, a family event, for example?
I think for large events like a wedding or a large party, I have heard of some people asking for questions of are you vaccinated on, say, the invitation form. I think the challenge there is many of us wouldn't be quite at the place of wanting to require proof. And so then you're still at a place where you might just have to trust people.
Check it out in your favourite podcast app today. Bye.
Bye.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.